Hey everybody, this is TJR. I was roaming through the comments section on my channel when I came across this comment from Loss Z. Now, he left this comment on my video, Is Country Music Dead? But let me just read it to you here. Please do the new Stone Temple Pilots album and don't read the horrible Rolling Stone review. Sorry, unrelated to your vid. Peace, love, man. Thank you, Lossy, for the comment. Don't worry, it's fine if it's not related to the video. I'm glad you expressed what you wanted to say about this. Truth be told, I did actually read that Rolling Stone review, but don't worry. When a bad review appears like this on an album by a group that I am interested in, it tends to just intrigue me even more to want to listen to it. And I should admit that while I have not liked every single album released by the Stone Temple Pilots, they have released enough albums that I have enjoyed that I will always check out the latest release and give it a chance. Now, this album was released on Friday. It's Sunday as I'm recording this. Since that time, I have listened to this album at least several times, if not more. And I have to admit, this album initially, and even now after several listens, continues to take me by surprise. Now, this album has, I think, been mischaracterized by a number of critics out there, even the ones who have enjoyed it, by calling it an acoustic album or an unplugged album. And while it is true that the acoustic guitar does loom very large on this particular album, sonically speaking, there is also plenty of electric guitars. They're just not played distorted or overdriven for the most part, and are primarily used to create textures as well. Now, there are a few moments on this album where the electric guitar does suddenly come into focus and is played aggressively and more overdriven than on the rest of the album, and when it does, it becomes that much more impactful as a result. But I would not refer to Perdida, the name of the album, and I'm going to talk about the name in a moment here, that along with the earlier mentioned Rolling Stone review. But first, I would not refer to the album as a acoustic or unplugged album. Instead, I would describe this album as a very melancholy reflection on the themes of loss and regret. And if you know anything about the band Stone Temple Pilots, you know that this is something that they have had to deal with professionally. And this brings me to the album's title, Perdida, which literally translated can translate into English as lost. And the Rolling Stone critic who reviewed this album took that literal translation and ran with it for their review, stating, Perdida is the Spanish word for lost, and it's hard not to see the title as some sad irony as the group plays a set of overly sincere acoustic tracks. But if you research this word just a little bit further, you will find that its Spanish meaning is really loss, or the loss of someone or the loss of something. And if you know anything about the band Stone Temple Pilots, you know that this is something that they have had to deal with twice now in their career. So with that said, I would ask, what is wrong with being overly sincere with your music? The Rolling Stone review also describes Perdida as the band going through an awkward Jethro Tull phase. And this comment is justified by the fact that the flute appears on a couple of the tracks. And after listening to this album, I have to admit to feeling very annoyed by this comment. Because having a flute as an instrument on one or two of your album tracks does not instantly qualify your entire album for any kind of so-called Jethro Tull phase, awkward or otherwise. It just means that you have flute on a track here and there. Also, the Jethro Tull that I know is a very progressive rock band whose songs incorporate extremely complex and technical musical arrangements. Perdida is none of these things, but it is a beautiful album if you give it half a chance. So here is my take on the album. Stone Temple Pilots has always been very good at melding some of the best aspects of 70s rock and pop, and then putting their own fevered twist on it. And the songs on Perdida, in my opinion, are oftentimes a throwback to 70s AM soft rock and folk rock artists like Bread, Joan Baez, Gordon Lightfoot, and the Carpenters. And artists like these were great at writing and recording songs that wore their heart right out on their sleeve. In other words, they were overly sincere. And now that I've given you this comparison, I want to add that the primary difference, however, between the artists I just mentioned, the Carpenters, Gordon Lightfoot, etc., is that they performed these types of songs in a very overt way. But on Perdida, Stone Temple Pilots take the opposite approach. These tracks are very nuanced and they're very understated in how they're performed. And if you're wondering what I mean by understated performance, have you ever watched a review of a motion picture where the critic talks about the performance of an actor and describes their performance as amazingly understated, meaning it's a great performance, but it doesn't get right in your face. It's very subtle, it's very beneath the surface. And that is what I mean by understated performance within the context of this album. If you know me, you know that I live by the 3-listen rule. Always listen to a song at least 3 times before you make any kind of decision about it. This rule has always served me well, and I would say that this definitely was the case in regards to this new album by the Stone Temple Pilots. Perdida is a very gentle and empathetic meditation on sadness and melancholy, and its songs are incredibly understated. Now, don't get me wrong. The Stone Temple Pilots fever twist that I mentioned earlier is still there in this album, but it is definitely ramped down, as well it should be. Since Friday, February 7th, I have listened to this album more than several times, and with each listen, its subtle beauty continues to grow on me. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that it might be a wise idea to allow the first couple listens of Perdida to just serve as background noise while you're working on other tasks. Listen to it casually in the background. Let the tracks sink into you. And then come back after you've put it away for maybe a day and listen to it again and see how you react to it now that the songs have had a chance to become embedded into some of your DNA. On the surface, the decision to make a soft rock album may not seem all that revolutionary. But in a world where too much of today's popular music just gets too obnoxiously in your face sometimes, being overtly sincere and openly vulnerable in your music may end up being one of the most musically rebellious things you could do right now. This is TJR. Those are my thoughts. Have you heard this album? Let us know what you think. Are you planning on hearing it? Once you're done, let us know what you think. As always, if you like what I do, please be sure to click like, click subscribe, and smash the bell notification icon so you can know when I release new videos. A special shout out to my Patreon supporters who are helping me make more videos like this one possible. This is TJR, your friend in all things musical. Take care, and I look forward to talking to you soon.